In this video, I'm going to run through why we chose a Ford Ranger and a Tommy camper to travel around Australia in. If you are new to the channel, we're currently traveling around Australia, and yeah, make sure you subscribe not to miss any episodes. So let's take a step back. Why a slide-on camper? And that is a great question. Bit of story time here. A few years ago, I brought up the subject to Rach, my partner, about traveling around Australia. We discussed it, got the buy-in, happy days. Okay, let's start planning. The first thing we planned was, okay, well, what are we gonna drive around in? We didn't want to tow anything, so that left us with the options, in our opinion. It is a troop carrier, a four-wheel drive van, or some sort of ute with canopy or tent or something around that nature. After a lot of research, I found out about slide-on campers. And what that is basically a camper which attaches to the back of a ute. It can be, some can go on a tub, a Tommy goes on a flatbed, and it just seemed like the perfect combination because we couldn't find a troopy, which was, good enough for what we wanted to do. We couldn't find a four-wheel drive van, and both those options are really expensive. Now, this isn't cheap, but it's probably the most affordable out of the three, seeing as the amount of low Ks our ute had and the condition the ute and the camper are in. To me, this just seems like a really good value package. Now, it might be different for other people, but that is my opinion. Believe it or not, this is our second Ford Ranger and our third camper. Keep watching, because after years of research, you can learn everything I've learned from years of research in this video. I'll try and share as much as possible. So we had those three options. We were like, okay, let's go with the slide-on camper. Let's just briefly touch on the campers because it's quite important. So we've had three. Our first ever camper, we ordered a custom-built slide-on camper from an independent slide-on manufacturer. Not gonna say who they are, that's just not my style. Basically, we were told a weight. When we weighed our ute, and we waited a year for the camper to be built, it was too heavy. When it was fully loaded, it was going to be too heavy, so we ended up selling that camper. It's much more suitable for like a Land Cruiser or something with a higher GVM, and we'll touch on weights in a second. So our first camper was too heavy. Also, our first ute, we actually had another Ford Ranger. That was too heavy as well. And what I mean by that is even the steel tray and all the underbody protection, it just made the ute too heavy to carry the camper. So we've actually changed utes once and we've changed camper 3 times. Bit complicated, I know, but bear with me. Why did we choose a Ford Ranger? Great question. So I've always really liked Ford Rangers, which I guess is up there with one of the most important reasons, right? You gotta like your ute, your vehicle, the company, the brand. Yeah, there are a few requirements we had for a ute or a pickup truck in the States. One, it had to be comfortable. We're driving around Australia. We want to be comfortable. Second thing, it has to be auto. So that eliminates, quite a lot of utes on the market. Third, it needs to look good. Fourth, we were looking for a bull bar and spotlights. And the fifth one, which we thought we were gonna have to do ourselves, was gonna be, it needs to handle more weight than your typical ute. Because anything you put on the back, even a canopy, you're probably going to be pushing your GVM by the time you add in all your gas and water or battery power, whatever you have on the back. It really, really adds up quick. I think we really had 2 options, which I was looking for, either a Hilux or a Ranger. Both amazing utes. The Hilux is typically super reliable, very well made, built to last, but it does have the Toyota price tag. And at the time, I just couldn't find a good Hilux as in good condition as this Ranger. We also wanted, so this is an extra cab. So one of the doors which fold out so you can open up and access the back storage. That was really important to us because I thought we're gonna have stuff during the day we wanna access. We also have our dog Bob, so it's a great seat for Bob in the back, and could not be happier with having an extra cab, and they're really hard to find. So I couldn't believe we found this ute with everything we wanted. It had low Ks. I think it had like 120 something thousand Ks when we bought it. Full service history, and it had the GVM upgrade. So the owner before us needed a GVM upgrade. They were storing some really heavy materials on the back of the ute, so already had it. So could not be happier with our ute. Unfortunately, we had to sell our first slide on. It was too heavy. So then we put our ute into storage. We went away for 6 months, went to New Zealand and Europe. Came back, took it out of storage, and then we were planning to do our big lap of Australia. So we needed to find a camper. And I've always thought the Trayon Camper was a very good design, very clever, great use of space. So online, if you search Trayon Campers, there are a lot available secondhand. So we found one in Sydney, we couldn't believe it. Really good condition, great price, great value. Actually, the weight of it fitted on the back of our ute easily. They're like 400 and something kilos, perfect. So we've got the Trayon Camper and we set off on our big lap, which we're on now. But this is the Tommy. I'll get to that bit in a second. We set off on the trail and we lived in it for 3 or 4 months, something like that. And it had a lot of pros. It is lightweight. It's a fairly easy setup. It can be a little bit time consuming, especially if you're doing it daily like we were. And there is a lot of canvas. So the whole roof, it folds out and it's all canvas. So for us, our specific needs were we actually, especially when we're looking for a camper now, happy with the ute, we've moved on to the camper, is it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be quick and easy, and we need to be able to sit inside and work during the daytime. And we just found we were too hot in the Trayon. The canvas, even with the fly on, unfortunately for us, it did not work out. Also, the canvas creates a lot of wind noise, so you always have to be thinking about how you're parking your ute, what way is the wind coming from. With the Tommy, it's just pop the roof, in you go, and that's it. So yeah, the good things about the Trayon is it has an indoor kitchen, which we thought we would have loved, but we're not traveling Australia to cook inside. Like, look at where we are right now. We're traveling Australia to cook on the beach, outside, to, you know, go for a hike and come back for lunch and make a spot of lunch at the side of the road, have a cup of tea on the side of the road. So having everything inside just really wasn't working for us. That's when we decided to sell the Trayon and take a different direction. We actually sold the Trayon, and then when we were searching Facebook, a Tommy just happened to come up at the right time, in the right place, and we could not believe it. We couldn't believe our luck. Feel super grateful, super lucky. And yeah, we went and saw it, and now let's talk about why we purchased it. We recently crossed the Nullarbor from South Australia into Western Australia, and for me personally, and for my partner Rach, I wouldn't have done it in any other vehicle apart from our setup. So I'm super grateful. Honestly, like driving the Ford Ranger is like driving a car, but like a really nice car. What I mean by that is it's super quiet inside. It has cruise control, it has all the tech you need, but when you want to come to a beach and you're going on soft sand or you're going to a, you know, really cool campsite where you need four-wheel drive, you literally just turn a dial and it turns into a truck and it performs so well. So I couldn't be happier with the Ford Ranger, especially on like a long drive from crossing states. It's amazing. And then moving on to the Tommies, which is what we're going to talk about, right? Outdoor kitchen. You literally just turn these two handles, open the gull wing, and the kitchen's there. Access for the Tommy is amazing. And there's one word sort of sums it all up, and that is that it's simple. Like, the Tommy is just so simple. Living on the road and traveling full time has its challenges. Let's be real, it's pretty complicated when you gotta think where you're going to stay, what are you doing, where are you gonna stay tonight. So it's complicated enough. We didn't need to make it more complicated with our setup. So that's why we love the Tommy. Super simple, it's very well built. So we've taken it over some corrugated roads, down some pretty tough tracks in our opinion. It's got us out of trouble. There's not been one issue with it. The craftsmanship's really good. So all the nuts and bolts and everything's just super well made. And yeah, it just works. You do not want to be crossing the Nullarbor and something like, you know, something goes wrong with it or it doesn't work properly. We did look at, because Tommy aren't the only company to have a slide on, you know, with this particular design. If you did want a full walkthrough of this, watch the video, I'll link it somewhere here after this one. There are other competitors who are making very similar campers with this canopy and rooftop tent kind of integrated design. We've looked at them, we've looked at a couple actually. They do not match the craftsmanship of the Tommy. Go check them out for yourselves, do your research. This isn't the perfect setup for everyone. It is for us, for now. It's not for everyone. And I will get into some of the cons of the Tommy camper in this video as well, because it isn't, you know, it's not perfect. There's always room for improvement, but we love it. So Access, simple, quick setup. We can sit inside pretty comfortably because there's such an insulated roof. Even during the day, we have a fan in there. Rach has this little air cooler, which is pretty cool. I'll link that below as well, and that keeps us cool. Also, something which is important to me, which I didn't actually realize, is it needs to look good. Like, for me, like, you're living in it and driving around in it, I want it to look good. And I think the Tommy is really, really just a very well designed, and it looks really, really good. So yeah, that was another one of our criteria and why we chose this. I love this color. They do have a white version, but I think having the two colors kind of contrast just looks amazing. Now, some of the cons off the top of my head, which I can think of, one being, I mean, there aren't that many cons to this setup. But you've got to give some sort of cons, right? There's always room for improvement. So I wish we had a little bit more space. They do have an X model, a bit more interior space. Our exterior space is amazing because we have anywhere where we go. They do have an X model, which just has a longer, I guess, top bit, just kind of points out a little bit. And that gives you just that little bit extra room. We went to see Tommy Campers at the Adelaide show, we went into one, and I was like, oh, we just need that little bit more space. And that's what the X model gives you. So I really, really rate the X model. We bought our second hand, it's 2020. So if I was to order this new, I would order the X model. It didn't have lithium. That was such a big upgrade for us. Lithium is in there now. I put solar on the roof. We just have a blanket which plugs in. I'd also have the roof rack so I can hold a surfboard. I mean, there are a few little tweaks, but Tommy has an answer to that because you can order it pretty extensive sheet where you can just tick stuff off. Be careful with what you decide to put in because of the weight. But like, for example, we would like better organization as well because ours was a bare shell. Like, we've had to put boxes from Kmart in there and just stuff like that, which is a bit tricky to do on the road. Any other cons? Condensation, that's not really a con of the Tommy, I wouldn't say. That is just camping in general. It does a good job because there's carpet on the ceiling, but we wake up, especially since being in Western Australia, it gets dark at around 6 p.m. and it's pretty cold at night time. So we do all the windows up, and yeah, obviously the air can't escape. So there's quite a bit of condensation, but we just open the windows in the morning, let it air through, just like any kind of camping really. And also cooking outside, it is amazing, like 95% of the time. But when it is cold, dark, if there's flies, mosquitoes, it would be nice to have a little cooking area inside. But I've got a few improvements to make to the kitchen area in terms of making like a fly-free zone, so stay tuned for that. I need to go to Bunnings, it'll be a project. Okay, we have two more cons which I could think of. One is there was no internal charging inside the Tommy. The previous owners had a fridge inside, a second fridge, so it had a 12-volt socket which we could plug just a regular car phone charger into, like one of those adapters. Got that from JB Hi-Fi, and now we can charge our phones and cameras inside, because there's nothing worse than waking up with like your battery's like 20% and then you want to go out and explore for the day. It's really annoying. The second thing, and that is our awning. Now, we haven't even tried the awning, so that is definitely on us. I've watched videos and just spoken to people. There's poles in this. It just sounds a little bit too complicated, and I know that is completely on us because we haven't even tried it. So stay tuned. We will try it. We'll give a full review on it, but I wish we had like a poleless awning. So like a alu-cab one, or one of those 30-second awnings, because then I'll just unzip it and pull it out and we would try it. But the thought of putting poles out and watching the video, the setup video, it didn't look that easy. So we need to try it though. So hold us accountable to us trying it, because yeah, that's another thing. The only thing we have to really think about is what way we park, because we always want the kitchen side to be in the shade. So we pull up at camp, we want the sun to set on the other side, so then we're not cooking in the sun. In Western Australia, that doesn't matter at the minute because it's dark at 6 p.m, so we're cooking in the dark, which is quite nice actually. It's quite fun. But yeah, I guess that brings me on to my last point, right? Like, this takes, as I said earlier, it takes all the stress out of setting up, and it really brings you back to basics with camping, right? It's more enjoying the moment and not thinking about your setup or where are you going to leave your van? Can you go down that track? I mean, we're careful because we don't want to scratch the Tommy, but we can pretty much go anywhere at any time and not have to worry. And for us, that is the ultimate value. Like, we can make sacrifices cooking outside, not that much space inside. we can make that all work, because the overall vision and the why behind the Tommy Camper and our ute setup, it just really is like the dream touring setup for us. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you tow a caravan? If so, why? Do you think this is a good setup? Do you prefer the Trayon over the Tommy? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a chat. And if there's any particular questions you have, let me know, because I can create more videos on this. If you are considering whether to go down the 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive options for, you know, vehicles to travel around Australia in, look at the campsite we're at. This is 4-wheel drive access only, and this is exactly why we have a setup like we do. No worries about this getting here or getting out. You can just enjoy it. So if you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.